Hi, Peter.
Hey, Hiroshi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How is going on over there in San Francisco right now?
Uh, well, things are changing every week.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I think the pandemic situation. We've been stuck indoors now for I think it's been over 2 months,
I see.
the 7, 8 weeks,
Uh-huh.
and they're finally starting to open up things so that people can maybe go to restaurants and do shopping.
Mm,
But bars are still closed,
I
and
see.
they're discouraging people from gathering together in groups.
I understand. In Japan, state of emergency is lifted, but many restaurants have a kind of plastic separations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a similar in California.
Well, I think it depends on the restaurant. Some of the restaurants are doing that. They're putting in plastic partitions,
Oh,
and they're using paper menus that can be thrown away. The waiters have gloves.
wow.
They don't have to touch anything, and then they won't let you sit with anyone except people in your family,
Ah,
and they won't let large groups.
I see.
And plus, they're only allowing the restaurants to fill up to 50% of their capacity. So there's a lot of empty space. And what some restaurants are doing apparently is they're using department store mannequins, dummies, to sit there and to be like fake people.
Mm.
So the restaurant feels full
Huh.
and you're not just sitting there in like a big empty cave.
And still people can enjoy so-called the normal, new normal life.
I don't think so.
You don't think
It does,
so?
no, it doesn't seem very normal to me.
Yeah.
Uh, there aren't as many people out on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to work yet. The
Mm.
offices are all mostly closed,
Uh-huh.
um, and people don't go out in big groups. And if you go out for a walk, it's funny because people will step off the sidewalk so they don't have to be near you. So
Ah, okay.
it's a different way of relating to people.
I see.
In terms of how people socialize and interact,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very big difference. You tend to be a little nervous about other people. It's
Mm.
not like you think they're going to mug you or rob you.
Oh,
It's more like they're going to infect you with a disease.
I understand. I understand.
So
Uh-huh.
you try and stay away from them.
So for example, like you will be nervous if you want to cough
Yeah, yeah.
in
If you
outside.
cough, you get a lot of dirty looks from people, and they run away. Somebody said they sneezed, and there's
Yeah.
like everyone that like
Oh
spread
wow.
out in
People
all these
were
different
nervous about
directions.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, people sneeze, they get colds, and
Ah,
people cough all the time. It doesn't mean anything, but people are just very nervous and
I
anxious about
see.
it.
Well, I tell you, so-called, like such kind of over nervous situations, and also additionally, there are tension between China and United States is now really escalated because of
Yeah,
political reason, right? And how do you think, like a San Francisco, who value a lot of diversity in California, And are there any problem about discrimination or prejudice or any super nervous, over nervous against Asians? Or do you feel something like this?
well, I don't think the situation around here is very bad. I mean, of
Mm,
course, you're always going to find somebody
mm,
acting up, but and you hear stories, but
mm,
I think for the most part, there's so many Asians here,
mm,
people from China, Korea, India, especially. Uh,
mm, mm,
People are quite used to
mm,
sharing space with people
mm,
from
mm,
other ethnicities.
mm,
It's what we call the bubble.
mm.
It's like a dome where all the rules that apply in other parts of the country don't seem to apply here. It's a bit
Yeah,
different.
that's big
That's not
different.
to say there aren't problems, but yeah, so I don't think there's a lot of anti-China sentiment here in the Bay Area.
I see. Yeah,
But
just
I wouldn't necessarily know.
I understand. Let me just a little bit step into the political issue because now, I mean, White House is really blaming China for this pandemic. And what is the kind of a public opinion inside California, particularly like Oakland and Berkeley area, which is really famous for the kind of a democratic background?
Yeah, well, I mean, excuse me for saying so, but we think that Trump is full of shit. So anything he says is likely not going to be very true. So when he starts bashing China and trying to blame other people for the problems that he's caused, we don't pay much attention to him except to criticize him for lying and trying to place the blame on other people.
I see.
Other parts of the country, though, it's different.
Oh, different way of thought means like, I mean, China created a problem, spread the problem all over the world, something like this.
Well, it's become such. I think when things started out, the issues were a little more well defined. So it was kind of like China is the cause of all of our problems. But now, since Trump has had 6 or 8 weeks to develop his arguments and confuse everybody, there are a lot of other issues that have come up that are probably a little more, what would you say? They generate a little more enthusiasm among his supporters than China does. For example, the whole idea of wearing a mask. Should you wear a mask or should you not wear a mask? And it really shouldn't be a matter of politics. It shouldn't be a matter of did you vote for Trump or did you vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. But that whole issue of should I wear a mask or not wear a mask has somehow become confused with whether you're a Republican Trump supporter or whether you're a Democrat who believes in science. And so a lot of people who maybe feel like they ought to be wearing a mask, they don't want to wear one because they feel that it makes it look weak.
This is a typical so-called dangerous confusions in the societies, I mean, for example, people can blame some country because of some kind of problems, but people cannot blame the individual. And the individual and politics must be separated if people talk about it. But sometimes it's confused a lot.
Well, it's what they call tribalism,
Okay, go ahead.
People feel like they belong to a large group, and the most important thing they can do is protect the group. It's kind of like in Japan where you have your inner group and then your outer group.
I understand.
And when it comes to sticking up and defending your company or your team or your school, you're all very rah-rah, but among each other, you know what your problems are. It's just you don't want to talk about them in public. And it's somewhat the same thing here. People are very much into their tribe. And so Donald Trump is the head of his tribe, and whatever he says is what all the people in the tribe agree with. And they will defend him. And they take all of his viewpoints and they use them as weapons to beat up other people who don't agree. And the people on the left are very much the same way.
I understand.
So everyone has their own tribal chief, and they all rally in support of them, and they're not very understanding of other people's points of view. And more important is that they don't understand why they should listen to other people's points of view.
Interesting.
There's not a lot of communication.
I know this tribal issue is really a global issue, but how do you think about because since I'm living in Japan, Hong Kong is really close to Japan, and every day what is going on about there in Hong Kong is now quite sad for me. But on the other hand, the U.S. government start blaming Hong Kong and coronavirus together. It's really weird for me too. So this is a kind of a difficult contradictions to talk about global politics these days.
Well, it's very tricky because when you start talking about China, I mean, Trump has his election that he wants to win in November.
Exactly.
So that drives a lot of what he's talking about. But, on the other side of that, China is a very important and powerful country and has a lot of economic power. And as the U.S. has kind of withdrawn from world affairs, China has gone into other countries with a lot of money and a lot of support. And so they're winning new alliances, leaving the United States out. So the United States has got to be kind of careful about how it treats China. And so you have these different things like, Trump is mad at China, and we see with all the stuff that's happening in Hong Kong. And so we want to say we support the people in Hong Kong and their love of democracy and so on. But, China owns all this U.S. debt. It owns all the U.S. Treasury bills. And we have to be kind of careful about what we say and do to China, or they could put the screws to us and really make our life a lot more difficult.
Yeah, this is a big, delicate issue, can I say?
Yeah, and it's part of the human condition and globalization and the complexity of world affairs. There are a lot of different issues, and there are a lot of different sides and conflicting points of view. And the thing is that nothing is impossible for people who are reasonable and willing to sit down and talk together. But President Xi in China and President Trump in the United States are both people who are not particularly willing to sit down and see each other's point of view.
That's problem.
Because it's not in their self-interest.
That's interesting, right? Exactly. Well, this is a quite interesting conversation, but our time is going up right now. But last question. Through this pandemic and then new normal, so-called, and politically also it is new strange, happens, And do you have any comment in the near future issue, how people can live together with this pandemic?
With the pandemic, you mean how we're supposed to live?
Of course, pandemic create a lot of issues. Of course, quarantine issues, a new normal issue, even political issue. Again, as we discussed. So,
I do have a point of view on that. I think it's impossible for us to just stay in our houses for months and months and months. The thing is, if we don't go outside, if all we do is stay in our house, that really doesn't protect us from getting sick. It just delays. It avoids us getting sick, but the virus is still there. It's waiting for a fresh host, new meat to come in to infect. So it doesn't help us just to stay inside. We have to get outside and help create what they call herd immunity, where you have a number of people who have got sick but not seriously sick, and eventually the population builds up some resistance to it. Not entirely, but enough to the point where we can get out and do things. So we have to get out. But the problem is, and this is where Donald Trump comes in and where the U.S. government has failed, is that unless you test people and find out who's sick and who's not sick, you can't release people out into the world and let them mingle and possibly reinfect each other. So the most important thing that we can do to get past this is with testing. And unfortunately, we're not really testing at the level that we're supposed to test.
That's interesting.
Even once we start doing that, let's assume that we've figured out who's sick and who's not sick, and you keep the old people indoors and you let the healthy people out. Well, then you still have what you were calling as the new normal. Life has changed. Maybe people are not going to shake hands anymore. Everyone's going to bow to each other the way they did in Japan. Many people now, maybe more Americans, are going to be wearing a mask when they get sick, which is not normal behavior here. There may be a lot more, say, telecommuting. Right? People will be more mindful of sanitation. Bathrooms will be cleaner. People will be maybe less likely to take public transportation, which is a real problem. In Japan and in London, for example, and in New York City, mass transportation is extremely vital to everyone getting around, but it's a primary source of infection. So we don't have that problem here in California so much because not as many people, take trains and subways.
Exactly.
But in those other parts of the country, and in places like London and Tokyo, Korea, they're gonna, people's behavior might change. Remember I said that when you walk on the street, people would step off to the side? Maybe that's going to be the case. People will be a little less friendly than they were.
I understand. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Peter. A lot of great comment, and please stay healthy again. All right?
You too.
Yeah, and let's talk more later. Okay?
Okay, well, you check in a couple months, see if I'm still here.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
はい、ピーター・グッドマンさん、サンフランシスコのね、バークリーに住んでます。出版社の社長さんなんですけどね、非常にいろいろなね、文化とか、こういう人種問題とかいろんなものにね、深い洞察のある人なんですけどね、ニューノーマルっていうのは非常に面白いなと、これからのね、世界がどうなっていくんだろうということで、ちょっとシニカルな部分も含めてね、いろんな話がありました。例えばですね、マスクをね、するかしないかという議論を考えたときにね、それが政治的に見るとね、トランプさんを支持するか支持しないか、支持する人たちっていうのは、マスクなんていらねえよと、ね、いうような人たちだと。で、マスクをって言ったらしないといけないと思っているのは、サイエンスをちゃんと考えてやっていこうという人たちだというふうに、一つ一つのね、こういうコロナのことの現象の中でもね、意見が分かれちゃっている。つまり政治とね、いわゆる、事実としてのコロナに対する対処の仕方、こういうものがね、政治の中でもいろいろと分かれているとちょっと複雑ですよね。さらにそこにね、アジアの問題、中国の問題が入っています。特に彼らなんていうのはどちらかというとリベラル派の方で、トランプ政権に対して非常に厳しい見方をしている人ですけれども、彼が見てても、例えば中国の問題というのも非常に難しい問題だと。香港でやっていることでみんなを守りたい、香港の人たちに守りたい。でもトランプさんのような形で、香港のこととかコロナのことで中国をバッシングすると、アメリカと中国との関係の中で経済の問題が出てくる。だから両者がちゃんと話し合っていくという、座って話し合うという対応、これが世界中で今求められているんだけど、その座って話し合うということができなくなっている。これが一番の悲しいことだし、コロナの中でも難しいことだよね、というようなコメントでしたよね。非常に意味深い話だと思います。サンフランシスコはね、アメリカの中でも非常にね、どちらかというとリベラルの牙城と言われるように、民主党系の人たちの非常に多いところなんですけどね、そういう中で今後のね、選挙にも影響を与えていくようなコメントを得ることができました。さらにまた次のコメントを見てみたいんですが、今後ね、コロナだけではなくてこういうね、世界的な動きとか政治とかそういうものがこのコロナの中でどう変わっていくのかなということも見据えながらインタビューを続けてみたいと思います。